Morning, everybody. Thomas here. I wish you a good new year 2019. So I hope that you had a good start into the new year. And yeah, let's make this year a great year for everybody. So we will jump right away into the action. I just also had some sessions played this year with some really nice, good results. Today we focus on bluff catching on rivers. I will basically show you some really, nice exploits versus population in kind of spots where you should bluff catch or not. And then if we can also make it in time, then we take a look on my hotter 33 final table. So let's jump right away into the action. So for today, we're just having, as I said, bluff catching on the rivers. Let's catch some fish. So first, we just have to take a look all those kind of options, what we have to consider. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, do we beat some value or not? Let's say, can we beat some of the value bets maybe the villain also has in his range? Very important for that is that we have those kind of range visualization. For that, a really good way is, for example, using Aquilab and then comparing two different ranges versus each other, or just take a look in PO Solver, or just in some solver that you just have exactly those kind of visualization about the ranges, how they interact together. You just have to know, let's say, for example, what is a 38% range look like, what is a 50% range look like, what kind of hands has a 15% range in. So all these kind of things you definitely have to know. So for that, you have to take this kind of pre-flop range throughout the streets. What's villain actual value bets in those kind of spots? Always think about what kind of hands he goes for value, what kind of hands he has in his bluffing range. And then, of course, very important is the board texture and the runout. Of course, on some boards or runouts, the villain can turn more hands into a bluff. On some runouts, population will never really bluff. I'm just checking back even the strongest value hands. So this is all this kind of stuff we have to think about. And the next is, what are from our perspective, what are the best hands to call down with? So what kind of blockers or cards do we want to have in our hand and what we don't want to have? And then, of course, we also have those kind of population reads. As I said, there are boards which get underbluffed or overbluffed, but for that, we just take a real look. I just prepared for that some examples into the PO Solver. So we just go over some spots, I played, and then just take a look on that. So first spot is this. The cutoff raises with 38%. I just gave him this kind of range. We're defending the big blind versus the min raise with jack and clubs, 9 and spades, and we are playing 28 big blinds effective. And the board comes queen, jack, 10. So let's take a look on the in position strategy. This is here, by the way, going back. This is the range I considered for the cutoff in this kind of spot. Of course, maybe some of those players are just going a little bit wider, some of those go a little bit tighter, but I think this is definitely very good as a default range. And you see on this kind of board, of course, the villain has a very big equity advantage here. So he, of course, has all those kind of ace-king combinations. He has all those kind of pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks, pocket tens, which we basically don't have in our defending range. This is the thing where we go through next. So I will basically show you then the defending range, which I consider we should play from the big blind. And as you see, as the villain has such a big equity advantage, and of course also nut advantage on this kind of board, he should just definitely going for 100% c-bet on this kind of board. So you see, for example, here, there's just some checking around, which is just something like 5%. But of course, this does not count. When the solver just gives you just strategy like you want to bet close to 100%, then of course you also will do it, because we would not just check, for example, 5% of range here with some jack 8 suited. We would still just betting here, because we know in this kind of spot, this is just a sport where we have those kind of big equity advantage. We just want to bet here 100% of our whole range, and mostly also with a smaller sizing. And here just gave the solver different options, just basically have those kind of 1/3 option, then just have here those kind of option of just going like 55%, and then just for pot size, basically pot size bet, we only want to go through with aces and kings. These are basically only hands we just want to go fairly big here right away, which also makes sense because, yeah, aces, kings, we have, of course, yeah, still the best hands most of the time, even when villain gets it in here on this kind of board versus with their king, queen versus flush draws. And yeah, then we just want to go fairly big, for example, with, so basically the 55% size with ace queen, so basically with our strongest top pair, then ace nine, which also makes sense because with ace nine, we're just blocking basically the 9-8 straight combinations from big blind shoes, and also reblocking ace king, so ace nine also makes sense for me going fairly big, or just bigger than just 1/3. And then we just also want to go a little bit bigger with, let's say, 9-8 suited, 9-7 suited. But I also compare this kind of board. It would also not be a big crime if you just go 1/3 with most of your range and then just going here, yeah, mostly bigger with your value range, and then here with some bluffing combinations. And you see for that, we just want to use most of the time hands which has those kind of blockers in it, so the weaker king X are good candidates for just going also a little bit bigger, and then those kind of, yeah, suited hands which also blocking some straights, let's say 8-6 suited, also just want to bet, especially with the backdoor flush draw or with the flush draw, we just also want to go bigger. So this is the OOP range in this kind of spot, which I considered. So as you see, I also have here yeah, aces and kings, just a few percentage of the time in there, because just with 27 big blinds effective, not going always to yeah, 3-bet get in, but of course mostly depends also on the villain. If I think that he has a very wide range and that he's folding too many hands, then of course I don't want to yeah, going with 3-bet with ace and kings, and also slow playing is definitely fine. But you see on this kind of board, we also want to have a very high raising range right away, and for raising, just I always take a look on the sizes, which is basically preferred the most, and here in this kind of spot also 1/3 would be the most. And then as you see, we would go something of 3x, just a little bit over. So this should be our raise sizing here, and you see that we just want to, yeah, have a raising range which consists of a lot of blockers in it. So we basically want to raise those kind of king X combinations very frequently, and also some of the better queen X we have, especially of course 2 pairs just want to get it in right away. Then queen 9, for example, if we're having also back the flush draw, and those kind of yeah, open ender for the straight also want to raise. Queen 8 also just a good example for raising, because with queen 8 we also blocking 9-8, and we of course having still a top pair versus villain's jack X, so we still have pretty good equity here on this kind of board. And then of course it makes sense. And those kind of hands in dark, by the way, are just reshoving most of the time. I just considered that just can also get here, whoops, that those kind of hands would be just going yeah, in our 3-bet or just jamming range before. So basically every kind of pocket pair is not included here anymore. So those are those kind of hands in dark. So these hands are basically taken out of our range most of the time, because with 27 bigs, definitely want to get it in pre-flop with most of the pocket pairs, either by just 3-bet calling or jamming. Then of course also with those kind of stronger ace X versus the cutoff. Yeah. So as you see, we just want to raise here on this kind of board very heavy, those kind of blocker hands, and also then just get it in most of the time. And for calling, we just want to use here, for example, those kind of yeah, weakish 2 pairs, or let's say our weaker 2 pairs, let's say queen 10, jack 10, we only would call here on this kind of board, we don't get it in. King 10 also don't need to get it in here with those kind of king 10, because we also have here just a pair, and we don't need some protection, also don't need it for bluff. This is of course a different example with those kind of king deuce, because with king deuce, yeah, we don't have those kind of or we have less showdown value compared to the king 10. So this is the reason why we just want to go with those kind of king deuce suited here. And of course, Mostly if we have just a backdoor flush draw. Let's say if we're having here, for example, king deuce in clubs, then we just want to call most of the time because, yeah, we just don't have those kind of additional equity. And let's say king deuce in spades, which just get it in, and of course king deuce in hearts also just want to get it in here right away because we basically have here enough equity also for later streets, or we have more equity compared to these other combinations. And this is basically with all kind of combinations we just have here. And then we just use those kind of weakish suited 9x we have here basically for a bluff. And here the interesting part is that we are basically just only raising those kind of combinations which have those kind of backdoor flush draw right away, and also just folding some of them even right away on the flop. Because the thing is, we just have here, yeah, a really natural defending range, and we also have to fold some hands. And of course, for folding, we just won't use those kind of weakish hands here. And we have here enough king x, which can turn stronger straights. So you see that we even fold on this kind of board some of our 9x, of our weakish 9x combinations here, and also the same with our offsuited ones. So this is what the turn should do on just the 3. So basically on a totally brick here. So on a total brick, the turn in position strategy is still should go for very, very high betting frequency. For betting, it's just something like 80% here, the preferred size most of the time. And let's take a look on which kind of hands should go for barreling. So basically every kind of pocket pair is just a check now, every kind of weak pocket pair. Then yeah, also ace x, those kind of ace x which also have a pair, also just checking because we have those kind of showdown value. You don't need to go for a bet or protection because yeah, either we just have the best hand most of the time at the showdown or not. For just bluffing, we still want to prefer those kind of weak suited king x in the in position shoes, and also those kind of suited blockers, which also of course would be nice if we have some blocker for the straight with the 9x combinations. This would be also some hands we just want to take a look here for just going for a bluff. And of course for value we have here our ace king, king queen, even just want to bet call most of the time with those 28, just bet and get it in because we have enough equity. Same with those kind of ace queen, of course still betting on those totally brick. And yeah, as you see here, every kind of weak pocket pair is just check. Sucks a little bit that it's here just cut on this kind of side, but this is nothing I can do because then you see also that every kind of pocket pair would be just a bet here right away. So those kind of observations on the turn is basically the imposition mostly just betting 2/3. Queen 8 suited is basically for value. For bluffs, should just using those kind of 8x, 7x, weak straight draws with those kind of 9x. And the low ace x are checking back, nut flush draws and high equities are also just want to check it back. So just going back, for example, as you see here, for example, we have it here. Ace3 suited, for example, if we have ace3 suited in hearts, just checking back here. Definitely you want to go for a check most of the time. And also here, same with queen 7 in hearts. Also just want to check that we also have here some strong flush draws in our checking range. And yeah, the natural of just bluffness, because I just basically find it a good way for me that I just take those kind of board into some different options, basically if this board is good for bluffing or not. So this is always what you have to think about. Is this a board which maybe is under bluff from the population, or is this a board which is over bluffed? And I think I just gave them just a number of 4 to 5 of the natural of bluffness here, or of bluffs. So now we take a look on the turn OOP strategy. If you ever have here pocket aces, those kind of ace x want to get it in here now on those kind of bricks, so we basically want to go for a jam with aces. Now we also jam queen 10 basically on the turn, because basically now we want to protect. We don't want to give the villain just a free or just a cheap river card. We just want to get it in here. Same with queen jack, just check raise, get it in. So you see here on the turn, now we just want to check jam. Basically our strongest two pairs right away. Then of course our straights also, which we called the flop, want to just check jam here now on the turn. And then also we're just using here our weakest king X with just a flush draw, and every other king X is just folding. This is also a little bit surprising for me. So let's say, for example, versus those kind of 66 or just 66% size, even some straight draws combination just folding here right away on the turn. We only check jamming here with our weakish king X then. And for bluffs, those are basically, of course, our bluffs in this kind of spot. Of course, king 9 also just want to get it in now, just have the straight here. And then we're just calling mostly with those kind of stronger king X, we also have just a pair in it. So basically king 10 is just calling because we have also some showdown value with king 10, and also king jack suited just want to call. Our jack 9 off, which we're having here, is also just still a call. This is no raising, only calling. Want to see the river with this kind of hand. And also those kind of weakest two pair here. Jack 3 is just calling, 10-3 suited also only just calling those kind of two pairs. So we also have here some two pairs in our range. So basically what we can take from that is basically our queen X are never folding. This is, I think, very normally. Some of the bad jack X is just mixing folds. We are mostly continuing with a draw, and this is still a very natural defense, I think. As you see here, for example, those kind of weakest jack X here just want to fold right away. If you don't have those kind of additional backdoor equity, also want to don't continue. And then of course ace X, we also don't need to continue to ace X because we're having way more stronger hands or better hands to continue. And also with the ace X, we are blocking some of those kind of bluffing combinations. So here with the ace X, we would only continue basically with those kind of suited ace X, which having here, of course, the hearts in it. So let's take a look on the river. On the river, I just gave the in-position player now only just the option to just go for a jam or go for a check. And as you see here on the river, the villain should go for a jam for value with just ace king, of course, is just a straight. Ace queen on those kind of brick run out on the 5, also just want to jam. King queen also want to jam, of course, queen also just jam. Every set is just jamming. Two pairs all just jamming here right away. Straight is just going for a jam, and these are basically our value hands. So let's take a look on the bluffing hands the in-position player should use. For bluffing, mostly want to use those kind of king X combinations because those kind of king X combinations, of course, has those kind of blockers for just a straight, for the king 9, the ace king. So these kind of combinations are fairly good. And then, of course, also want to use those kind of weakish suited hands we still have here in our range, like those kind of 9-8 suited, 9x blockers definitely want to use here for just a bluff. And we're basically checking back all those kind of hands which might have some showdown value. For example, king jack don't need to bet or jam or go for bluffing here because with king jack we have here some showdown value as the in-position player. Same with which is ace jack has some showdown value. Also, of course, smaller pocket pairs have here some showdown value. We don't need to turn those into bluff because we're having here just those kind of weaker hands which we are still turned into bluff. And also ace X just want to check down mostly because we still have some showdown value versus villains king X, which might call, or 9x. And we don't need to turn those ace X into bluff because we just find easily enough bluffs here with our king X combinations and with our weakest suited connected hands. So this is why we just want to check back those kind of ace X combinations very frequently. So our observations are just jamming queen 10 offsuit, queen 8 suited for value, bluff a lot of those lower gut shot, lower suited connected hands, and the suited king X. So the question is just, we have to ask ourselves, what do you expect the population to bluff here? Which hands would make the best bluff catches? I gave him just a natural bluffing frequency on the river of just 6. And the level of underbluffness is just 7. I think that population is definitely underbluffing here in this kind of spot. So what do you expect here, for example, the population to go for a bluff? Do you think the population is just going for bluffing here the same? They will bluff those kind of suited combinations hands? Do you think they will use here more of those kind of ace-x combinations? Give me some of your thoughts. What do you think in those kind of spot? Is just the population going for a bluff? I just need some of you guys in the chat. What do you think here about those kind of river spot? Is just the population going for a bluff with those kind of hands, using maybe more ace-x here? Million says most of the time just the king-x of hearts and the ace-x of hearts. Yeah, with the king-x I definitely agree. With the ace-x I'm not sure. I think definitely they will use the ace-x if the river would also come a heart. I think then they will definitely turn all or most of the ace-x with just the ace and hearts into a bluff, which of course is just fine. But I think that not most of the ace-x will turn into the bluff. What do you think about this part here? What do you think about those kind of suited connected hands? Do you think population is just going for a bluff here? Of course 9-8 is not a bluff, 9-8 is just going for value. But what do you think about 9-7 suited, 9-6 suited, 7-8 suited, 8-6 suited? What do you think about those kind of suited connected part? Is the population just capable of going for bluffing those kind of combinations or not? Just not everybody at once. Anders says very few people only using this. Kevin also say most of them just playing very straightforward and giving up. And I think also this is the same, especially on lower stakes or mid stakes. Even some of the regulars, they're not turning those hands into bluff because they think that the villain is not just folding. So yeah, this is exactly what Steven says, especially on the micro stakes. The people are not bluffing enough, and most of them are not bluffing those kind of 9-7 combinations, 9-6 combinations, and also population is never going for value like this in this kind of spot. As you see here, for example, the solver want to use even queen 9 suited, going for a value jam here. Queen 8 suited also just want to go for a value jam here on the river, and I think population is just checking those kind of hands here most of the time. Myself also, I think, just depends a little bit. I think queen 9 just definitely go for value. Queen 8, it's just a mix. Just going for value. But you see, for example, the solver want to use this kind of combinations just 100% of the time, going for value, get value from, we get queen x, some of those kind of jack x combinations, which might call down. So definitely also not think that population is going for value like this. But of course, those are only 2 to 3 combinations, so this is not that much. So let's take a look on the river, what we should do, what we should basically bluff catch here in this kind of river spot. So as you see, this is what we should do versus an all-in here. So versus an all-in on this kind of river, we basically want to bluff catch with those kind of king jack suited, king 10 suited, also just just calling just around 65% of the time. Same with the offsuited ones. Queen X should just go for the call down basically always. Yep, every kind of Queen X is going for call. Some percentage of the time it's just folding, but most of the time I would say this is just a call down with those kind of Queen X. With the Jack X, we just want to fold with those kind of 9x, 8x very frequently. And why do you think we just want to fold here very frequently when we have the Jack 9 and the Jack 8 suited, or the Jack 7 suited, the Jack 6 suited? What do you think is the reason we just want to go for folding when we're just having here those kind of 9x in our range? 8x. Why do you think this is just the reasoning why we just want to go for a fold here? Pretty much always here. With those 7x, Jack X suited, Jack deuce also wants to fold always. Yes, exactly. We're just blocking here with those kind of 8x, of course, some of his bluffing hands, which they might turn into a bluff. And then, of course, it's just a bad call down if we're just having, for example, the Jack 8 suited. And also our Jack 9, basically the hand I had here in this kind of spot, also just want to call 50% of the time. But here, when I have those kind of spot where population is never going for a bluff like this, then also Jack 9 is just pretty much always folding. And pretty happy about folding everything which is blocking here, those kind of bluffing combinations, because yeah, when the villain is never going for just such a wide bluffing, then of course we just want to fold here very frequently. Some hands which are maybe interesting for call down, let's see. Yeah, of course 3-5, we just have a big backdoor 2 pair, but King 3, it's just folding. So on this kind of river, basically, yeah, we call down around 50% on the kind of river. Most of the queen X are just calling down. Jack 10, 10-9 doing some calling down. And yeah, we are not blocking those kind of 8x, 7x, 8x, and 9x bluff. This is the very important thing in this kind of spot, that we don't want to block those kind of hands from the villains, which he might turn into bluff. And of course, on the micro stakes where people are not turning enough hands into bluffs, then we can even fold some more of our hands. So in this kind of spot, I just decided to fold it with the Jack 9. Because I think population is definitely under bluffing, and also I had some blockers with the 9x in my hand, so basically just want to fold. So coming to the next hand, of course we're having here the conclusion. So we're not going to having call down over 50% on the river. So what are the best bluff catches? We just want to call here. So we just can call a decent amount of our queen X and 2 pair plus, and this board is definitely getting under bluffed. So this is just the conclusions we just get here from this kind of board. So coming to the hand 2. Yeah, exactly, Lucas, also for the same reason here, because if we're having just a king jack, king 10 of hearts, also, yeah, we're just having just some blockers for villain's hands, which he might bluff with those kind of hard combinations with their double barrel. And of course, those kind of hands are also just worse hands to calling down. So the next spot, it's just a little bit different, because now we're just playing versus a UTG +1. I just give him just an 80% open raising range and just 35 big blinds effective is the stack size we're just playing here. We're just sitting in the big blind and defending with 10-9 suited and diamonds versus the min raise. And the board is just 10-5, just clubs. So this is the in position range, the early position range, which I think just the player is going to open in this kind of spot. And as you see here also, in this kind of spot, also the same as in the last spot, the in position player just want to go mostly just with 100% c-betting here in this kind of board. Also the big size is not using much here, mostly just want to go with just the 1/3 size, or even just a little bit smaller than this, like 30% of the pot is just a size to go, and then just a bigger size of just around 3/4 also just want to get used very frequently. And those kind of bigger size want to use or want to bet with those kind of hands which need a little bit more protection. Those kind of pocket jacks, pocket queens definitely want to go a little bit bigger, and then also of course ace 10 want to go big. Same with ace 10 suited, king 10 suited also want to go a little bit bigger. And then for just bluffing, we're just having those ace queen, ace jack suited, especially with the backdoor flush draw, just want to go also a little bit on the bigger side. And just the rest of the range just want to go then with just a smaller sizing most of the time. Of course, just a mix here and there with king queen suited and some other combinations. But in general, this is, I think, very natural. So this is the flop strategy, and here just gave just the imposition player basically the bigger size, because I think that on this kind of board, just the population is just going a little bit more often with the bigger size, because I think they just knowing that this kind of board is not those kind of connected size, but they just have those kind of big equity advantage, and they just want to go a little bit with a bigger sizing. And as you see here, this is just the big blind defending range I just gave in this kind of spot. And the same here, for example, pocket tens at ace queen suited, just going mostly for 3-bet calling at those kind of 35 big blinds effective here. So this is why we are just taking out here those kind of combinations. So on this kind of board, we just want to have a very high raising frequency with our strongest 10x. But in this kind of spot, I would only basically raise with ace 10 and king 10 with just a backdoor flush draw maybe, and then just using those kind of weaker suited ace x for just a bluff, and also here 5-3 with also just using 5-3 suited, for example, as a bluff, because I don't want to see additional turn cards. And if the villain calls, then I'm just, of course, depends on the turn card, I'm just done with the hand most of the time. And then basically also want to raise it up. Some of those kind of our best flush draw hands we just have here, basically also you can just get in right away. But I would not raising that many 10x that the solver suggests here. So coming to the turn of the in position. So the turn basically in this kind of spot was just an ace, and of course on the ace, the in position just have a huge equity advantage, because he is just having all this kind of strong ace x here in his open raising range, and this is why on the ace, the in position player can just fire so many hands, and there's not much you can just do. So he still goes on this turn card, pretty much to 100% with his whole range as a bet. And just also want to use here on this turn card even just a smaller bet, so also something like 1/3, because it makes sense. As I said, the imposition player has here on this kind of turn card a very, very big range advantage, and this is why he can just go so wide with his whole range. For a bigger bet sizing, so something like 2/3 of the pot, want to go with those kind of strongest ace x now. So ace jack, ace king, also here with the suited part, definitely also want to go bigger. And then just going here with the 1/3 with just kind of smaller part, which also makes sense, because with that, we only go now for value versus 10x or versus gut shots, flush draws. And of course, those kind of pocket pairs to just make 5x indifferent, or to just not give villain just a free card again with those kind of king queen, king jack combinations, which might float the flop once, with have just a backdoor flush draw or just clubs in the hand, and with on the turn now just giving up. So the observations just getting here is the ace turn is a very high equity hand for the in position player. He's just doing a lot of betting for value and just only a little checking frequency. As I said, we don't need to take a look on a checking frequency, because this is not much, those kind of 11%, and should just still go for 100%. So under pairs to ace x and weak ace x gets blocked, stronger hands and bluffs. Bet on the bigger sides. The natural of bluffness is just 8, I think here on this kind of turn. The population is definitely going for just definitely for bluffing or just betting again those kind of range very frequently. So this is the what we should do on the turn versus the bigger bet size. So again, now any kind of 2 pairs just want to get it in, ace 10 just want to raise it up, ace 5 of course 2 pair, 10-5 2 pair just get it in now. Ace deuce also just make a 2 pair, just also want to get it in versus villain's strongest ace x versus this ace king, ace queens, ace jacks. Also pocket fives, just get it in now. We are unblocking the ace x combinations the villain has in his range, and also just want to get it in. And for just the bluffing, we just want to use here only 5-3 suited, basically, because 5-3 suited, of course, on this kind of ace x, we're just having now here, for example, the blocker for the set, and also we're having here the blocker for just a straight. So this is why we just want to also just going here with a jam with those kind of 5-3 suited as a bluff. and the rest is just mostly going for value. And then of course just calling here with our strongest ace-x, only calling down, and also here with those kind of ace-x, we have just a gut shot, also only want to call down because we just have easy enough equity with those kind of hands. And the interesting part here on this kind of spot is that we're basically having those kind of 10x in diamonds, and 10x in diamonds is just pretty much always folding here. I thought this would be a hand which is still a good call because we are unblocking those kind of spade combinations, we are unblocking club combinations, so I think the 10-7 in diamonds would be a good call, but in theory this is not a good call. Why can't I show you this? Can't show you this here. So the observations I just get here from this kind of spot, that the 10x in diamonds is just a pure fold on the turn. We should not continue. I did in game basically. So versus the early position, we should definitely overfold the turn because we just don't have to call down as many hands as mostly just has the suited broadways as a bluffs, and then bluff some of the lower gut shots and flush draws, unblocking bad folds. So the natural call down is just going for a 3. So the population is definitely calling down too much in this kind of spot. So as you see here, when I even call down, or when I call basically any kind of 10x on the turn, or most of them, then population is also just calling down too many hands. So should definitely just going, for a lot of folding on the ace-x versus the strong early position range, because we just face such a strong range in this kind of spot, and this is what we have to consider here. So the river was just the 8 in hearts here in game, and Kevin asked the 10-7 in diamonds. We folding because villain has less flush draws and more top pairs in the range. The thing is with the 10-7, it's just a pretty easy fold in this kind of spot because, of course, the villain has such a high equity on this kind of turn. This is basically the reason that we're having so many better hands to continue here. So you see, let's say we're having here those kind of stronger 10x we have to continue here. We're having here 10x with just a gut shot in it. We just can continue here. So these kind of 10x are way better than just having here those kind of 10-7. And we're also having here those kind of 10x just in clubs. So basically 10-7 in clubs. We're also having here those kind of one combination we're still calling down. And the rest is just pretty much always folding, because if not, we just continue with too many hands here. This is basically the problem, because we are just beat by basically anything which is the villain bets here. And especially with population, because I don't think that population is going for a bet here on this kind of turn with those kind of pocket pairs as much as they should. And then of course, we just busting ourselves most of the time. So here in game, the river was just the 8 in hearts, and here on the river, the villain should just go, or the in position player should just go mostly with the ace-x combinations, just going for a value jam here most of the time. And then also just want to use those kind of stronger king-x combinations here, which blockers for ace-queen, ace-king, ace-jack is blocking. So this is why I just want to going for a jam with those kind of queen-jack suited, king-9 suited, because with those kind of hands, basically the in-position player is just blocking a lot of those kind of strongest call-down hands from the OOP player. So this is basically the reason for that. And of course, has showdown with just jack 10, 10-9 is just going for showdown. And of course also every pocket pair is just going for showdown here, because we don't need to bluff the pocket pairs in this kind of spot when we're just having here our bluffs and those kind of suited broadways hands. So basically on the river, just jamming all ace-x for value as the in-position player. Bluffs, just as I said, using mostly just king-jack, king-queen, and those kind of gut shots, which is missed. And the 4-4 is, of course, also just checking river, basically any kind of pocket pairs. So again, the question, what do you expect the population to bluff here? Which hands would make the best bluff catches? This is the questions we just have to ask. And the natural bluffing frequency on the river is just going for a 9. I think this is definitely a river where just going very high bluffing, and this is, I think, a spot which is not under bluff that much. So what do you think? Is just going the population also just going here with those kind of suited broadways which missed as a bluff? I would say yes, but what do you guys think here about this kind of spot? Do you think that the population is just also just going for bluffing those kind of strongest, or just king X and gut shots, which is missed here? What do you think about the spot? Yeah, as I said, I would also think this is a board which is population going for over bluffing, but I think maybe for value they're just not going as wide as the solver suggests here. As you see, solver just want to go for value with basically any kind of ace X here. I would basically only go for value here with ace Jack, ace 8 suited and better, then of course ace 5, of course, also just want to go. But I think I would also just go for check ace 3 very frequently, and also checking down a6, a7 very, very frequently, I think. So this is what we should do on the river here versus the jam. So we basically want to call down most of the time with any ace X. So basically any ace X should just calling down here in theory. Ace deuce is a check. Let's see. Here in this kind of spot. And I think because ace deuce is just going for ace deuce is not anymore in the range because it's just going for a jam. And for the in position player, I don't have it in the open raising range. So this is basically the reason why ace deuce is not in there. So on the river, we basically want to call down with all kind of strongest ace X, or basically all ace X just calling down. King 10 suited is, for example, just folding, and we want to call down with all this kind of weaker 10x. What do you think, again, the reason for this? What do you think we just want to call down more with just 10-7, 10-6? And even 5-4 suited is just more calling down than just the king 10. What do you think for that? Why is, for example, 5-4 suited just a better call down than just having the king in our range? Yes, again, we don't want to block those kind of Broadway hands which might bet the turn and then also firing the river. So this is of course then the reason why you just want to going for check fold. And here again on this kind of spot, a lot of players have the wrong thinking. They just have those kind of thinking, yeah, those kind of 10x is just stronger than just 10-6, for example, but they just don't take this blocker effect here into account, that this is the important thing. So our observations from that is that all ace X are calling down, and some of those kind of 10x without a Broadway blocker. This is the important thing here. And yeah, 10-6, for example, is just a better call than king 10 for those kind of reasons, because with king 10 we're just blocking king jack, king queen, any other suited king X combinations, king 9 suited, which might turn into bluff. And yeah, the natural defense on the kind of river is just going for 6. And this is just the difference between this and those kind of queen 10 board. So yeah, definitely population is going more or over bluffing on this kind of board, I think, than on the other one on those kind of runouts. So the next spot here we just have now is just you just play versus an early position range again, UTG raises of 30 big blinds effective. And here just giving a little bit tighter range of 70%, just only 1% tighter. And we're sitting in the big blind with king 2 suited in hearts, defending again versus the min raise. And the board is just ace king 8. So again, this is for the in position player, very, very good board where we should go with just 100% c-bet frequency. But here, different to the other boards, the in position player should just use bigger sizing right away, because he just has even way more equity on this kind of board than the OOP. The OOP player best hands are just some weak suited ace X here, of course some ace 8 suited, let's say 4 combinations, of course, also there's offsuited ones. But of course, the in-position player has here a huge equity advantage, and then this is why he can just push so much equity with all those kind of hands. And let's take a look. Hands you just want to go right away with a big sizing. For example, pocket 4s to 8s. Just want to go right away with a big sizings to just make even king X just indifferent right away on the flop. Then of course strong with ace X, ace 10 and better just want to go right away big. Ace king don't want to go big. Ace king want to go 2/3 of the pot because of ace king. Of course you're just blocking anything. You're just blocking king 8 suited, ace 8 suited, so ace king don't need to go that big. Same with the suited part. Ace 10 suited and better want to go fairly big, and those kind of weaker ace X just want to go with those kind of 2/3 pot here. But it's not a big difference if you're just using 1/3 here or 2/3. It's just a mix to just make it very easy. Just going here with any ace 8 and better, just going with a bigger bet sizing, and then here with those kind of weaker ace X, it's fine to just going 1/3. As I said, there is not a big difference between those kind of equities or chips you just will win in the long run. And then just going for bluffing here with all these kind of queen 9, king 9 suited definitely just want to bet. And also those kind of Broadway hands which have the good blockers in it for the strongest hands for the big blind, also just want to go fairly big right away on the flop. So this is what the in-position player or the OOP player should do versus those smaller 1/3 bet, because I think on this kind of board population is going there with the 1/3 bet most of the time. So just want to raise it up right away with ace 8 and better here, because we're just having 2 pairs. Here again I would just raise ace 8, I would definitely raise ace 9, just calling more than this. Ace 10 also just calling mostly, and just ace jack I think just also want to raise, and same here of course with the suited part. King 8 definitely just want to raise it up most of the time. Queen jack, queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited, I would only raise with a backdoor flush draw, and if not I would only call here. For example, if I have jack 10 suited with just the jack 10 suited in hearts, I would just raise. Jack 10 suited in spades I would raise, and just clubs also just want to raise, and then only calling with jack 10 suited in diamonds. So that just always connecting here with those kind of flop a little bit, that we have some additional backdoor equity with our flushes we just can make on later streets. Interestingly wise, that we also want to raise any kind of weak suited 8x, or most of them we have right away, because the thing is those kind of 8x need a lot of protection versus those kind of bets the villain make here in this kind of spot, and we don't want to see really turn card here anymore with those kind of 8x, and this is why we just want to protect those and just raise it up, and then just going for very high checking down on most of the kind of turn cards, because as I said, those kind of hands only raising for protection or even folding out some better hands from the villain. For example, if we're just raising here with 3/8 suited and we get, for example, pocket 10s or 9s to 40, of course this would be a very good result for our hand. And if we get a call, then we just can check and try to get showdown with our hand most of the time, versus those kind of Broadway hands which the villain might have or might float the flop versus the raise. So in this kind of spot, the turn was the 5 in diamonds. So as you see here, this is basically one of those kind of turn cards where you just want to play a very high mix strategy, and I think this is way too complicated, and of course this is not possible for a human to just implement those kind of strategy into the game tree. So as you see here, just want to have very frequently mixing all kind of bet sizes, want to go for pot sizes, 2/3, 50% pot, or just 1/3. So basically any kind of pot size is just used here. Of course, it makes sense. Aces, kings should just still go for a bet. Also don't need to go that big. Would just go something 50% of the time with those kind of aces and kings. King, queen, just checking most of the time. King, jack also want to check most of the time. For bluff in this kind of spot, we just want to use mostly those weaker pocket pairs, pocket 4s, 5, 6, 7s, 8 is of course going for value. Checking back those kind of 9s to queens, because those kind of hands want to go for showdown, don't need to turn those hands into bluff or whatever, those hands have showdown value. We just want to see the river card. And also we're checking back here aces some percentage of the time, because of course on this kind of turn card, this is just a totally brick for most of the kind of floating hands from the villain. And then on also checking back here, aces is definitely fine, few percentage of the time. And those kind of weaker king X also don't need any kind of protection anymore, just checking and decide to just go for a river bet or just checking down. I would just go for checking down most of the time. And for bluffing, we also want to use here those kind of queen 10 suited for just blocking ace queen, ace 10. Same with here, queen jack also just definitely can use this kind of combination as a bluff. So on the turn 5 of diamonds, betting most of all ace X combinations. Bluffs are mostly just the gut shots, ace X and the under pairs. And the natural of bluffs, I think, is just going for a 3. And the level of under bluffness is just going for 7 to 8 in this kind of spot. So definitely I think this is also a spot where this population is just going for under bluff, not just going for a bet with just this kind of pocket pairs. So definitely think they will under bluff. So this is what we should do in the big blind versus the, what I have it here, versus the 60% bet. So only continuing with just a call most of the time. We don't have any kind of raising here. Just everything is just only calling. Hands only want to go for a jam now would be 8-5, where we just make a 2-pair here. I think, yeah, 8-5 definitely want to go for jam, I think. And king 5 also just definitely want to go for a jam. And the rest is just only calling here. Interestingly wise, yeah, we also want to fold with king deuce suited here. I thought also in game this would be just still good hand to just call here with the king deuce. But in theory, this is also not a hand we just want to go for a call. Here in this kind of spot, for example, only king deuce as in diamonds would just call, because with king deuce and diamonds, we don't block those kind of backdoor flush draws, which might bet the flop and then also might consider betting the turn. So only king deuce and diamonds is just calling here most of the time, and then just a few percentage of those other king X. But in general, just also folding here very, very frequently. And because we only want to continue here with those kind of stronger king X combinations. Yeah, and eights, of course, also just jamming in. So the turn defense is very natural, I think, in this kind of spot. We are not folding any kind of our ace X, and some of our king X blocking bluffs are just folding now, and there's basically no raising happening. As you see, for example, we're just blocking bluffs. This is, I mean, king 9, king 10 suited. We're just blocking those kind of queen 10, jack 10 combinations. Definitely want to go for a fold, and also same here with the off-suited ones. So the river was just a 6 in diamonds, and on the 6 in diamonds, just should go for value with just any kind of 2-pair here. Interestingly wise, also want to go for a jam most of the time. Oops, go back. Where is the... Where is the in-position strategy? I just missed the in-position strategy. This is of course not so nice. The in-position strategy was basically just going with any kind of ace X for value here for jamming, and basically versus the jam, you should just go for call down with any kind of ace X, of course, which just have a 2-pair, king 5 if we also not jam it on the turn, definitely also, of course, easy call down now, same with just 8-5, and then we just want to call down mostly with the ace X combinations, which has the lower part. Basically ace 6 is, for example, a better call down than ace 9, because with ace 9, which is blocking some of those kind of 9-8 combinations, 9-10 combinations, which the villain might turn into bluff. So again, we just have to ask ourselves what the population is going for a bluff, and I think definitely on this kind of board here we'll just go with over bluffing. So the most of the ace X is just calling down, and yeah, we doesn't mix the folding too much. And for example, the ace deuce is just a better call down in this kind of spot than ace 9 here. And we should definitely just fold a little bit more versus the populations. and call a lot of your hands that don't have just a jack or a 10 here in our hand, because yeah, when we're just having here just a jack or 10 in our hand, then we are just blocking also some of those kind of top combinations, which might bet on the turn, and also have those kind of blocker thinking where they think they're blocking ace jack, ace 10, so some of those kind of blocker combinations. So this is why we just want to go for just folding, for example, more with just ace 10, ace 9, also same here with the suited part, compared to ace deuce, ace 3. As I said, those kind of combinations are way better for calling down than the other ones. And here also on the kind of river, it's, for example, also not a good call down with just the ace 4, because also the imposition player should just go for a jam pocket fours, for example, very, very frequently unblocking all kind of bluffing combinations, king combinations. So this is why pocket fours, for example, would be then a jam. And then, of course, it's not nice to have just some 4x in our range. Same if with just the 7x. Also, those hands just want to turn into a bluff here on the river, blocking some backdoor straight combinations, which not be that big part in this kind of spot, but definitely don't want to have a 4 or 7 here. These are very, very bad cards to have. Versus population, this might be a little bit different, because as I think the villain has to show me first that he's capable of turning here, for example, pocket fours or threes into a bluff. I definitely do it most of the time, and it works really, really great for me, for myself. But yeah, I just have to see this first from some villain, and then just make a note from them that they are capable of turning those hands into bluff. And if not, then we can easily overfold here, even in that spot. And yeah, king deuce here on this kind of spot is also pretty much always going for folding. So as you see on this kind of spot, we just figured out a lot of those kind of boards or spots basically where those kind of blocker game are really important. We always have to think about our range. Do we want to have this kind of blocker in our range, and what are the best hands for calling down? I hope that you just learned this today. Let's say which are the hands you just want to have in your range and which hands you don't want to have. Then also which hands you should go for bet as the in-position player, either for value or just for bluffing here in most of the spots. Of course, this was only spots versus tighter positions. But there you see definitely just the difference that on a lot of turn cards, the imposition player can just push the equity, especially on those kind of brick turn cards, and then the OP player has very high or very big problems. And also on a lot of boards, the population is just calling down still too many hands. This is also something to get from that. But the most important thing is that you just want to have this kind of blocker thinking. You should just always think about this kind of spot. What do you want to block? And definitely overfolding in a lot of spots, with especially even your top pairs versus those kind of tight ranges, because the population is just never turning enough hands into a bluff. This is also something we just figured out here. And when they are not turning enough hands into bluff, then of course we don't want to go for wide call down in a lot of spots, and just either go for overfolding, and then in a lot of spots just using those kind of strategy, just calling then on a turn, and then depends on the stack to pot ratio on the river, just going for a fold if you're having still enough just behind. If not, we just have to shut our eyes and just calling down. In some spots, this strategy you just have to go for it, especially when just playing those lower stack to pot ratios. Do you guys have some questions about the topic today? Should I explain something? What do you about that? Or did you understand everything so far? Is everything clear for everybody? If not, just let me know. Kevin is just writing. The second hand, coming back. So this one basically, we're just having here the 10-7 diamonds. You mean on the river, right? Here you mean, for example. On the turn. So, for example, that you just would fold more with the king 10 and just the 10-4. Yeah, but here this is also the same for the same reasons, because with the king 10, you're just blocking some of those kind of king queen, king jack combinations again. So you don't want to have those kind of hands in your hand. Then, for example, it would be a better call with those kind of, as I said, 10-4, for example, or 5-4, or having those kind of small pocket pairs. Of course, this felt counterintuitive, but it's just those kind of reason for just going for block it. I would also not mind for just calling king 10 pretty much always and then just giving up river. This is also definitely fine. As you see, we pretty much only want to fold here if we're having just those kind of weaker or just a king. I think king 10 and diamonds only hands just want to fold here on the turn, and anything other is just calling. I think this was the strategy here. I have to take a look again. But yeah, this is definitely a spot which felt counterintuitive. And then here, same with the king 10 offsuit, also just want to fold very frequently. But for me, this makes totally sense to just going for folding those and just calling down more with those kind of 3s and 4s here, because with the 3s and 4s, you are basically not blocking any kind of those kind of hands which the villain turn into bluff. And we're also having here enough hands to just going for call down or calling at least one street. This is basically the reasons. And as I said, we're having here still all these kind of ace-x and other 10x, which are not blocking kind of bluffs. Same as you see here, for example, queen 10, jack 10 is pretty much always folding here. And I would pretty much always fold here also those kind of queen 10, jack 10, because as I said, on this kind of turn card where the in position player gets such a high equity advantage, then it's not a crime to just going for overfolding, especially versus population. As you see here, they have to bet still here, all those kind of 6s, 7s, and I don't think they will do it. I think also they will not bet here. Queen 10, king 10 suited enough, or king 9 here ever. So then definitely going for fold here with those kind of combinations. Obviously, because this is also something you have to take out of those kind of PO sims here. Those kind of calls, which are only calling here, for example, 1/3 or so. These are, of course, folding 100% if you're just playing versus a way tighter betting frequency here. And of course, population is just always going for way tighter betting frequency than this. Then, of course, we can easily overfold here with some of those kind of combinations, especially when we're just blocking here some of those kind of hands, of those blocking hands. Then, of course, very, very easy folding those kind of combinations here. All right, guys, we just stop here for today. I hope that you just enjoy it. This is just a topic for today. So Ivalo has also some questions. Of course, Ivalo, you can ask anything. What kind of questions do you have for me? You have just a database analysis. Turn bet frequency is the same as flop bet frequency and totally higher from EP and the blinds. Yeah, from EP, it's of course very self-explaining that you just have those kind of high c-bet frequency, especially on turns, also have still very high c-bet frequency because you just have those kind of tight ranges. And then, of course, it's way easier to have high c-bet frequencies. But of course, normally the turn c-bet frequencies should just go a little bit lower than the flop frequency, because of course on the turns population is just having also tighter defending ranges, and then our turn barreling frequencies should just definitely go down. I will also give you some good rule of thumbs. I have something special for that, which get you a really good idea on which kind of turn cards you should just go for barreling, because also on the turn it's just the same. We also have to always think about those kind of continuing ranges from the flop to the turn, take this into visualization, try to find out, is this a good turn card for us or a bad turn card, and then we just make our conclusion and just go for a bet. And then, of course, it depends a little bit on the player we just face against. Against some players, we don't want to bet any kind of turn cards when they're not folding the bottom part, when just is calling down anything. Then, of course, we don't need to have any kind of bluffs. But yeah, this is not that strange, but in general, as I said, your turn frequency should go down a little bit. We can also take a look then in the next sessions. All right, guys. Tomorrow, I just want to see some final tables of you. Just wish you the best luck. Hopefully, we just make some deep runs in all these kind of tournaments. There are very nice tournaments out there. I don't know if some of you guys can also play on Winamax. If not, there's definitely now a big series starting tomorrow. And if you just can play on Winamax, you should definitely do it, because this site is really, really soft and there are insanely big prize pools for just a little bit of money. So if you can play there, I should definitely give you the advice to just go for it, because this series is also very insane, and I think it's even more profitable than something like Scoop or VCoop or PowerFest. I think this is one of the most profitable series over the online year, but there will definitely coming some more. So if you have the opportunity to play there, depends of course in the country you're living, then you should definitely just go for it. All right, guys, wish you good luck, and then see you in the next week, and bye bye.